Happy Halloween and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be customizing our Ghoulia Yelp's Monster High doll into Emily from the movie Corpse Bride. I've been a fan of Tim Burton for a long time and this is one of my favorite movies. I've been customizing dolls for a little over a year by this point, and this is my very first video, so hope you'll enjoy it. In order to make Emily's body, I used Ghoulia Yelp's head but took a Create a Monster body and attached Skeleta's one leg and arm so that it would resemble Emily as much as possible. And we're going to start with cutting off all of the blue hair. And she will get blue hair later on, but another shade. In order to get the glue out of the head inside, I will now warm it up with a hairdryer. Whoops. Gotta hold that down. And when the glue is warm, it's much easier to scrape out of the inside. I removed the original face paint with pure acetone before I start with the yarn hair, and as you see I picked this dark bluish green yarn and I separate it into thinner threads. I prep the head and body by sanding it lightly, and this is for the epoxy sculpt that I'm going to use later to better stick to the head and for the paint that's going on. I painted the scalp in a dark blue color so that you don't see like the skin color shine through the yarn. And I start rerouting with the yarn. I chose to reroute instead of making a wig cap. For this one I thought it would look better. Just put the yarn in every other hole, that is enough. But the important thing is that it's the thickest by the hairline and in the parting on top of the head. As I go, I just flat iron it a bit to see how the hair looks and how thick it is, just to see how much more I need. So after like 1,000 years, the hair is finally done, and as you can see it is way too long and a bit thick too, so I need to cut it. I'm gonna use this eyebrow shaper, but first I take scissors just to get the big part of the length away. And just to get more natural thinning of the hair, I kind of scrape with this eyebrow shaper. This was quite awkward to do under the camera, so I had to like hold her between my knees later. And then I just comb it out and flat iron it again to get it as flat as possible. And then I wrap it in this plastic just to get it even more flat. And now we are going to prep it for the face up. You can use like a piece of cloth or whatever. I took like a plastic bag. You have to attach it along the hairline. You can use painter's tape or needles. I took needles because I think it holds the best. And just put them along the hairline all the way around. So Emily has these really big round eyes, and I didn't want to use the original sculpt of the face, so I'm going to sculpt these eyes out of epoxy sculpt. And you just take equal parts of the two parts and just make two little spheres. And I am a little bit worried that it won't stick to the head because epoxy doesn't really want to stay on vinyl, but we'll try. So I make these really big eyes because I think if I kind of fan them out, maybe they will stick better. And you can smooth them out with water. And when I'm finished with these eyes, I let them dry for about 24 hours. But actually, you know what? I thought when they were dry, they were way too big. So I redid the whole thing with smaller eyes and I put some super glue underneath. And now you see I compare the head with Skeleta's head. If you are wondering why I didn't just use Skeleta's head, it's way too big. And I didn't want a big head like that. But I am going to look at her upper arm just for reference, because now we are going to sculpt this upper arm into, a bone. I am going to just use my little Dremel and go to town with that Dremel. When I'm done with this skeleton arm, I am moving on to painting the face. Yeah, don't forget spraying the face first with a couple of layers of Mr. Super Clear. And then I use these watercolor pencils by Faber-Castell, is my favorite. Just sketch out where you want eyelids to be, and I start filling in the whites of the eye. This is quite a different type of eye that I'm used to doing, but we'll see where it goes. And I use different types of blues and grays for this because Emily is very blue in the skin tone. And here you see I use soft pastels for shading the face. And here I just sketch out where her teeth are showing through the cheek and some parts of her face that's rotting or something. And I just cover the face with this blue shade. Don't forget to spray the face with Mr. Super Clear between the layers, because every time you spray, you kind of save that layer you just worked on. And the colors become more opaque the more layers you use. Her lips are very opaque pink, so I start with these pencils. And I sketch out her eyebrows, and you always go from lighter to darker when you start sketching, because if you start with a too dark pencil, it's much harder to erase if you make a mistake. And I always finish with the black pencil. And to get the white of her eyes really white, I use watered down acrylics, and you are going to need several layers of this before it's really covered. And as I have the white paint there, I paint the upper arm so that I later on can shade it into a more bone color. And I want her eyelids to be even more blue than I can achieve with the pastels, so I take the blue acrylics on there too. And one more layer of the white. And now I highlight some parts that I thought needed highlighting. And I just do this, go over with shading and highlighting, kind of back and forth until I'm happy. And as you see, I put some white acrylics on the showing teeth as well. And now I'm painting her tiny pupils with black acrylics. In the end, I cover the eyelids and the whole face with iridescent shimmer. And I first sketch out the eyelashes with my pencil, and then I go in with the black acrylics. Emily has these really thick and chunky eyelashes, so I chose these upper eyelashes, real human false eyelashes. They are really thick, and I cut them to size, and after painstakingly gluing them on her eyes, I cut them down to an appropriate length. And now we are going to shade the body so it matches her face. And I just used the same blue pastels, different shades of blue. And the same thing here, you seal the layers with Mr. Super Clear. And now I am going to put these yellow and brown pastels on the bone, so it gets a more aged look, because, you know, Emily's been dead for many years, and yeah, she has to look the part. Now I think the upper arm matches the lower, and now I cover the whole body with this iridescent shimmer as well. And now I just cut out simple shapes for the shoes and a square for her corset, and warming it up with my hair dryer so it becomes manageable. And I take this model body and put on the warbler and shape it around her upper body. This is the first time I work with warbler, and I like it. The shoes were very difficult, but for the corset it was perfect. And now I just mark where I will cut off the excess pieces. She has this heart-shaped upper part and a pointy part towards her legs. And yeah, scissors didn't do it, so I take this precision knife and cut it off the model body and cut off the excess. And now I'm very happy with the shape of the corset, so I move on to looking at some reference pictures to see where her ribcage is showing. So I just sketch out and cut a hole with my precision knife. And then I put it back on the body and sketch out where to draw the ribs on her ribcage. And now I'm gonna put on the shoes. This is my first time using warbler, so yeah, this was a bit of trial and error. You got to heat the warbler up quite a bit to make it soft so you can quench the ends together, and I actually had to redo one shoe because I wasn't happy with the first one. But when I'm happy with the shape of the shoe, I just sketch out where to cut off the excess warbler. Doing this forever. Yeah, and they look pretty similar, so I am going to do the heels. And I took matches. And yeah, I tried to sand the shoes a bit because I thought they were kind of rough, but sanding warbler did absolutely nothing, so you don't have to do that. And yeah, now I'm going to cut the matches to a proper size, and you have to cut them kind of in an angle because, you know, the shoes are tilting. Sand a bit to make them look better. And then I put them on with some hot glue off camera and sanded the glue a bit. And yeah, now I'm happy with those. And now I'm gonna draw on the ribs, and yeah, I actually had to look at some reference pictures again to see how many ribs are showing, and the answer is 3. And it's the same procedure here. You go in with the watercolor pencils and seal it with Mr. Super Clear when you're happy. Now I'm going to paint the shoes white because in the movie her shoes are white. Stating the obvious. And I decided to paint with some white acrylics on her ribs as well to make them pop more. And now I am going to make this fallen down sock on her skeleton leg with some epoxy sculpt. And you know, I don't know if it's really a sock. I think it's supposed to be her skin because, you know, her leg has probably decomposed or something and the skin has fallen down, but we can call it a sock. We say it's a sock. And when the epoxy sculpt has dried for 24 hours, you can paint it with acrylics, several layers until you're happy. And when that is dry, we can color it with the pastels. And we use the same blue colors as on the body and on the face. I add a little more gray because the original body had this gray undertone to begin with. And when they match and I'm happy, we seal it with Mr. Superclear. And now for the corset. I need holes to put the ribbon that will hold the corset together, so I just use this drill application on my Dremel and drill little holes, clean them up with my precision knife, and we got some nice little holes. And now I am going to cover it with this silk fabric, and I use this clear fabric glue to attach it to the corset. And be sure to use really clear glue because you don't want this milky kind that gets yellow when it ages. And I checked, this doesn't get yellow. And just press it on and cut away the excess pieces. And I glue it on the inside so the edges look nice. And I actually decided to cover the shoes with this silk as well, just to make them look more refined in a way. And just fold in the edges to make it look neat and nice. And now I'm going to cover the corset with this really beautiful lace. And the same procedure here, you take this clear fabric glue and press it on. And it's really sticky and dries fast, so something. And I'm very happy with that result. And I thought that looked so good, so I put the lace on the shoes as well. And on the soles, I just glued small pieces of paper. Now I am going to paint the corset with watercolors because I believe that her clothes was white, but you know, she's been dead for a long time and started decomposing, so I guess in this world decomposing is blue. And I did the same thing to the shoes, and I use this Viridian and Ultramarine blended together to get this really nice bluish green color. Off camera I sew this skirt to her. It's made of silk and yeah, I kind of freehanded it. I made a big half circle that I stitched together in the ends and put in elastic in the waist. And her skirt is very ripped and torn, so I cut these fake rips and holes in it and made a zigzag stitch across all of the edges, just not to make it fray too much, but at the same time I wanted to look a little bit frayed just for the look, the torn look. And I am now going to color the skirt as well, because, you know, it's kind of gradient, bluish green to the lower end and white on the upper. So I use these watercolors and just mix it with a lot of water and made this kind of ombre look on the skirt. And I'm very happy with the result of that. And now I am going to make these embroidery pattern that she has on the skirt. Kind of looks like vines. I was debating on maybe just drawing them on, but I think it looks better when it's really embroidered. So I took regular sewing thread for this because embroidery thread is kind of too thick and this looks better to the scale. And yeah, this took forever, but I think the end result became really good. And on her corset she has these tiny little pearls on the top and on the bottom. And I chose these kind of cream colored, not completely white beads. Tiny little beads, and I check on a reference picture where they should be and just stitch them on kind of randomly because, you know, some of them probably fell off as the years gone by. And yeah, looks really nice. And you see on her skeleton hand I actually did a little golden ring out of steel thread. And now I am going to make her gloves. And I used the same silk fabric for this. I cut out little squares, measure up where they should be on her arm. Yeah, if you take the arm off, it's much easier. And just stitch them together. And when I sew them together, I fold them inside out. And you know, the one on her skeleton arm is kind of ripped and torn. And the other one is more in one piece, so I didn't do too much to that. Now I'm going to make her veil. And you know, she has this kind of floral crown on her head. So I take this wire and just measure up how big her head is. And put it inside this chiffon fabric. And just twist the wire together. I glue the edges so they won't fray too much and keep it in place on the wire. And now I'm going to kind of measure up how long the veil should be. And I use this fabric pencil that goes away with just water, so better to use than any other pencil for fabric. And yeah, and then I sketch out where to cut the tears and rips on this as well. And for her crown, I made these tiny little paper roses that I'm going to paint later. And also her bouquet. And yeah, I'm going to embroider the veil as well. This was hard. And yeah, don't forget to fray check the ends of this fabric. This chiffon is not a natural fabric, so I could use a lighter to just melt the ends, or you can use glue, that works as well. And you see the embroidery is done, and I'm going to do the same thing with the watercolors on this and kind of make this ombre look on this too. Wasn't too happy with that edge there, so I tried to kind of fade it out a bit. And now I'm really happy with the veil. And And now I am going to glue the little flowers on the crown. I want the flowers to look really like withered and dry. I try to use these same watercolors as I used to the skirt and to the veil, and you know, these bluish gray and brown colors. And just layer that over and over. And now I'm gonna let that dry and move on to the crown. And I wasn't sure how to actually get them to stick to this little wire, so I tried this Loctite super glue, but they just wouldn't stick. So I came up with the idea to put some householding paper, just use regular white glue just to get something to attach to. And then I could easily glue the flowers on with the same white glue. And I tried to make the flowers not too perfect because, as I said, they have to look kind of dead and withered and like she's been in the ground for many years. And I finish off with these tiny little leaves that I glue on the wire. Yeah, so I decided that the watercolors didn't really do it for these flowers, so I moved on to acrylics to get a more opaque color and just go in all those little crevices. Finally, we gotten to the point to style her hair, and I put in quite a lot of hair mousse to make it kind of manageable and to keep the shape. And then I used these wooden chopsticks and heated the hair with my little flat iron. And yeah, look at those little curls, look so good. And now she's finished. But wait, she has to have a couple of friends with her too. I chose to make the little maggot out of a wire and epoxy sculpt, and I thought I would just whip him up together easily, but yeah, it was kind of a struggle and took a long time. I had to redo him a couple of times, but you know, you have to see the struggle too. And do you remember the little dog skeleton scraps? I thought I'd do him as well, and it's the same technique here. I used a wire for a base and covered the wire with epoxy sculpt. While I was working on this doll, I kind of stumbled upon a video here on YouTube, I believe by John Solo, about the background story to the movie Corpse Bride, that it's a old Jewish folktale that they used for the story, and I thought that was so cool that they didn't just make it up for the movie. And then I let them dry for at least 24 hours, and I painted them with acrylics and sealed it with Mr. Superclear. And look how cute they became. And I made Scraps a little red necklace as well, and I wrote Scraps like in tiny, tiny letters on the badge. Yeah, I'm very happy with that, and I think we are ready for the end result pictures. If you're interested in more of my dolls and artwork, you can check out my Instagram. And if you want to buy this doll, she is going to be available in my Etsy shop. The links to both Instagram and Etsy are in the description down below. I'm already planning for my next doll and video, so please keep an eye out for that. And thank you very much for watching. Bye.